Hello, welcome back to Two Sisters Unscripted. I'm Megan.
And I'm Caitlin. And for today, we wanted to talk about Women's History Month because we're in March. Woo woo. Shout out all the women out there. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. So, we figured today we can kind of just give a little bit of background onto Women's History Month and like the theme. They have a different theme each year, and just kind of highlight. Obviously, everyone listening, they have maybe they have important personal women in their life that are important that have shaped them in some way. And then we just wanted to highlight just some women who have made significant contributions that have shaped society and have allowed us to thrive today and also just being like the role models for us, whether we know people or whether we don't know people and they might be more like famous. So they can also be role models, totally fine. But we figured we start off with the theme for 2025. So this year's theme for Women's History Month is moving forward together. And it's women educating and inspiring generations. So, overall, Women's History Month, the idea behind it is to honor achievements and contributions made by women throughout history. And having that month is designating a time in our year to intentionally remember those who have paved way, in the struggle for gender equity and recognize those who continue to break barriers today for us as well. And I think a lot of times people might perceive it as, it's like famous people. It's people who have, like, were in our history books. It's people who are really, like, so well known and, like, often talked about and this, that, the third. But these can still be people that are in your own personal life. These can still be people that might not be worldwide known, that can still continue to break barriers, even if it's smaller strides, because as we know, hey, you got to take small strides to run the marathon, So I think it's really great to have this moment to kind of talk about it, especially being March and Women's History Month. But it shouldn't, as always, it shouldn't stop here, just like last month with it shouldn't stop here. We should always acknowledge year round. So, but Megan, do you want to just like talk about significant women in your life that have made an impact on you or have inspired you, or like different qualities or traits that have inspired you?
Yeah, I will start with our mom. So I'm sure you feel the same way. I have never seen like a woman as strong as our mom. And other people will probably feel the same about their moms, but it's our podcast.
We're talking about our mom.
I mean, even people that just knew mom, a lot of people had said like she was an inspiration. Like no one has ever seen somebody fight that hard to just continue living the way she did. Um, but I would say so. Also, March, as Aaron calls it, is Shamrock Month, and the as Caitlin has made clear, I'm very proud of our Irish heritage. And sorry, you guys can probably hear my kids screaming in the background. Sorry, it's gonna be all episode. The the three women that inspired like my love of all things Irish was our mom, our grandmother, and our great grandmother. And I call them the O'Connor ladies. Very proud. But they've all gone through so many different struggles. Like Dee Dee, for example, our great grandmother, was about 9 during the Great Depression and played the saxophone on the radio. And she just has gone through so much. And she lived till she was 97. Like, she overcame so many battles. She lost her husband and still, like, remained the, I don't want to say leader, but like the leader of our family. And then grandma lost her husband I mean, he was 69 when he passed, and she just continued to fight, and she'd really, I love her. She could be a pain in the butt, but especially when she learned how to text. And but like she just handled everything very gracefully, especially towards the end. Like, I've never heard somebody say, okay, I accept the fact that I'm gonna die and I'm ready to see my husband again. And I was like, what did you just say? And then you're gonna hear us talk a lot about our mom, like, put up one hell of a fight against MS and lived at least 10 years longer than doctors even said she would. And even she was like, I'm not done fighting. But I mean, just at least right now, I'm not going to go on to list everyone I know that has made a difference in my life because there's so many. But those three women have just made such a big impact. And I mean, even still today, um, my daughter, Erin, is Irish step dancing and she loves it. And every time we go to her class, all I can think of is how my O'Connor ladies would be just so proud of her, and because she made it longer than I did 2 classes, and I was like, I'm done. I don't know. What about you, Caitlin?
Yeah, I would. I would say the same. I think personally, of course, like many people probably listening to this, we have women in our life that we've seen what they have, went through, and they still, show up and still have hope and a desire to live, and it's not just, I know my sister was saying that our mom fought, but I think it's more of like the desire to just live
Mm-hmm.
a life, and I remember that I actually spoke for our mom's eulogy, and I ended up mentioning that she so our mom was in a wheelchair, and even presenting in a wheelchair, especially in the like 90s, early 2000s, it was you didn't see many people, because society still wasn't geared to, like, ADA compliance and
Yep.
stuff like that. So it was like constantly when we went out, people would always just be like staring, and whether it was staring in curiosity or staring in sorrow, or like sympathy, rather, not sorrow, but like sympathy, it was still kind of like there, and it was always there. And I think really what was very inspiring, now as I'm older and I look back at it, is like, despite, and I mentioned this in her eulogy, that despite the looks, despite the judgment, despite the just whether it's like how much I say, like the innocent curiosity, right? Like, not trying to be mean, just curious,
No, and I'm
despite,
sure a lot of people saw mom and they were just like, she's so young. Like, I
yeah,
wonder what's wrong. Kind of like that kind of look. Like,
right. And and despite that, she still was like, I'm gonna go, we're going out, like, they get in the girls' like outfits for school, or we're just gonna go out to dinner, or whatever the case might be. And it's really hard it's really hard to get past like societal expectations, or I know we've talked about this before, but especially when physically you're presenting a little bit different than what majority
Mhm.
of population might be, right? So it's what really inspired me was the courage, and I hate to say that too, because really in hindsight, especially coming as an OT, like people shouldn't feel like it takes courage to just like step out if you're presenting differently or atypical. So, but it was really that courage, and I think one of what was really truly inspiring with mom, and I mentioned this in the eulogy, was that actually, like, my exact quote was, despite the world's cruelty, she was tenacious. She was a fighter. She was a voice of reason, fairness, and love, even beyond her ability to speak. And she saw through the lenses of what was perceived to hold her back. So, looking at MS, and that's perceived to a lot of people think, like, oh, this is going to be hard now, but what was perceived to hold her back, and still saw like goodness and possibilities and hope for not only herself, but for us as well. And I know mom personally, like mom saw that fire in both of us. But if I'm speaking for me, like mom saw the fire in me, and she told me when I was looking into colleges, and like she knew like deep down, she was like, this girl is an explorer. Like she wants to go, she wants to do her thing. And she gave me that opportunity too. And she saw the fire building, and she gave me such a like a safe space to say, hey, go do what you got to do, and those are like the moments that I hold so dear to me, because it's not just seeing like her poise and her strength and all of these things during our, life with her, but it's also seeing her supporting us as well, because that now turns into me like just loving to support other people in what they want to do. So yeah, mom was absolutely pivotal for me. Such a incredible person to have in my corner, and such an incredible woman to have in my corner.
I mean, she was the person, no matter daughters, like parents, friends of ours, like everyone loved mom because she would be in anyone's corner. Like she
Yeah.
was, I mean, our friends would come over and she'd be like, all right, she'd help all of them with their homework. You have questions, she was there. I mean, she helped us with our homework for hours and hours and hours a night. But she just was so supportive, I feel like, of everyone she met. Um, especially like my best friend Brittany still talk, and I know Juliana probably does too. Still talks about coming to the house and remembers staying at the house, and mom would just help them with anything like homework, anything. Would just take them if their parents couldn't pick them up from school. She's like, "I'll just send them over here with the girls." Like that was just mom.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, she was the most, for me. But I think grandma really more so gave me like the don't take both grandmas, like don't take shit from nobody type of like personality. So I mean both of our grandmothers were very bold. They were very
In
bold,
very different ways.
and yeah, in extremely different ways. And my they just, I think they really, for me, they really were big people, I think all of our family members, dad included, definitely kind of instilled in us like don't take shit from people. Like you respect people 110%, but don't
You don't
don't
back down.
right, like don't, and not in an aggressive way, but it's
No.
more of like don't let someone think you're less than. Don't let someone make you feel like you're not capable of doing something. And I think that speaking specifically on Women's History Month, like both of our grandmothers really did that. And you're right, in very different, unique ways. But they both did that. So yeah, and that's coming from like our more like intimate family. But of course, as I get older, and I have come across many women, many friends, many coworkers, many bosses, a sister,
Oh,
one sister that I have. But it's really beautiful, like as I get older and I reflect on it, like how much of an impact all of those women have made in my life. Whether it's in a way of saying, and not even to be mean, but whether it's a way of saying like that's not how I want to present myself. Or it's in a way of saying, wow, like I need to try to, you know, present myself more like this, because look at what they're doing. They're incredible how they manage themselves and present themselves, and all this, that, and the third. And I'm not saying present themselves in a like, oh, like I never lose my cool. That's not it. Like, it's more of like they're goal driven and they got it and they know, and I think growing up, it's really still good to kind of be exposed to a plethora of different personalities and different goals and different circumstances, and just seeing how to navigate that. And yeah, so I think that's more on like a personal level for kind of like the both of us. So yeah. And I'm sure everyone listening can kind of think about like one, two, a few, a bunch, of women that really have made such an impact on your own life. Whether you are a woman or a man listening to this podcast right now.
I'm gonna trail back a bit because you had talked about how mom was very brave and still would be like, let's go shopping, let's go out to dinner. And we'd all pack up in the van and we go to get something to eat. Do you remember when we went to Golden Corral and they gave mom a senior discount?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how mad she was?
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking about that with dad the other day, and he's like, she was like, how dare you give me 50 cents off my meal because I'm in a wheelchair? Like, she was so upset, so upset.
Yeah.
And she's like,
Yeah.
I am not senior. Like,
She wasn't. She
no.
was in her 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they gave her the senior discount because she was in a wheelchair, and she was like, no, I don't want it. Take it back.
Yeah, and dad's like, shush, shush, shush. It's like, it's 50 cents, but like, okay. Yeah. But that kind of goes back to like what I mentioned before too. It just it it has improved since then. Of course,
Oh,
like that
absolutely.
was over a decade ago, and it obviously has improved since then, but even more so, it's still that, it's still like, I mean, I'm not even gonna get into that because that's like a totally
That's
separate thing, and then
a
I'm gonna
whole
come
nother
from like my
episode.
OT side, and it's a whole, yes, it's a whole different episode. But yeah, that is a funny, that was a funny story, and unfortunately, it kind of like set the tone for dinner because she was just fed the F up, bro. She was like, wow, that was like festering the whole night in her. And then we even left and got home, and she was still like, I cannot believe that.
We are still talking about it 20 years later.
Yeah. She's like, I cannot believe that. How dare
If she
they?
was here with us, she'd still be talking about it.
Yeah, she'd be like, "Can you believe that? Can you believe what they did?" But yeah, yeah. And our dad was just kind of like, "Why can't you just let it go? Just let it go. It's 50 cents, it's 50 cents." She was like, "It's a principle."
Yeah.
But either way, that's our mom.
Mm.
A quick snippet, a quick story for you. But so not only have we obviously have our personal women in our lives, but I think both of us can kind of speak about more notable women. I say that with the because I'm like, dang, yeah, like our people, they were notable women,
I know.
but more like notable women in history
Yeah.
that have really shifted and shaped how society views women's contributions and just views women being here in general and being in like male dominated fields, for example. But are there any women that for you, I know, and just to say, guys listening to this, there are so many women that have made huge contributions in history that are still talked about in history that are phenomenal. We obviously will not list them all.
Yeah.
Just like an FYI, because we're trying to keep this episode a little bit shorter than our previous one. So like, but you guys know them, and we just wanted to say that because there are incredible women all over the place, and historically incredible women that have made massive, massive contributions. So we just wanted to say that. So, yeah, because unfortunately we can't list them all, but we
No,
could.
we would
But I
be
just
here.
don't think I was like, I just don't think I want to listen to like an hours and hours long podcast of just list down names. Or
We
we
would
could let us know if you want that.
we would lose all of our listeners. They'd be like, okay, well, 3 hours in, I'm done.
Right.
And that's just by naming names, not even giving any background.
Oh, I would give the background.
No, I'm saying 3 hours is just naming names. That's not even, we'd be here for
Oh, yeah.
years.
Oh, yes. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. But anyways, so are there any specific women that kind of stand out for you that you think have really like shaped who you are, or like actually made even if it's like an impact on something that you do just day in and day out or one time or
I'm having brain fog because all I can think is I watched SVU last night and all I'm like, Olivia Benson. I always wanted to be her.
she's an icon.
She is. I mean, we used to watch SVU with mom when we were growing up, but I just remember being like, she's amazing. Like she helps so many people. Yes, I know it's TV. Um, but I'm like, I always wanted to go into criminal justice, so I would watch her and be like, I want to be her.
Yeah.
And first of all, she could wear heels and chase people. Like, again, TV.
You're gonna end up seeing Megan on the treadmill in hills.
I, you've seen me walk in heels. You know I could do it.
I'm just practicing.
Just practicing. But no, I'm like stuck on that. Mostly because the episode last night hit close to home. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like stuck. Like Olivia Benson, I love her, and even Mariska, the woman who the actress who plays her, does so much out in society to bring awareness.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I guess I'm gonna say Mariska slash Olivia Benson. Um, she I follow her on Instagram. She really does just so much to put awareness out there to so many different um I mean, not even just charities, just so many different things happening in this world.
Yeah.
So she's my first one.
Fair. Um, yeah, y'all. So let me roll out my list.
I know. Caitlin
Um,
wrote notes. I was not prepared at all today.
well, it's because I used to work. So where I used to work, we would do like obviously monthly themes, right? So but I don't really remember where January was, but February always like Black History Month, March Women's History Month, April we would do like Earth Day themes, stuff like that. But so I was always in charge of creating like pamphlets, flyers, stuff like that. So Your girl went to work, right? I was thriving. But obviously just a few people that stick out to me. Our girl Ruth. Our girl Ruth Bader Ginsburg, dude.
Yeah.
R.I.P. bro. No, phenomenal. Like phenomenal. Just obviously a huge advocate for women's rights and gender equality, and just made massive strides for us. So Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a big one. Michelle Obama. I love Michelle Obama a lot, and I read her book. Did you know Michelle Obama's dad had MS?
I did.
Yeah. I was actually reading that book, The Light We Carry. Really good book. I apparently decided to start with that one and not her first book, Becoming. So I still haven't read her first book, but I actually started reading The Light We Carry with mom. So I
Yeah.
was reading it to her, and the next thing you know, we both started crying. We both started crying, and I was like, "Oh, sorry, mom. I did not realize, because I did not know that her father also had MS." But she just carries herself with such grace,
Yeah.
and I think just she gives a lot back to the community. She just overall, I feel like she's just like the auntie everyone wants, you know. She's just like that person. But her books, her I heard Becoming was really good. But The Light We Carry was actually a really good book. And in her book, it actually, she touched upon a bunch of people like reaching out to her via just email, letters, all this stuff, and just talking about how much of an impact she made and to them and to the community. And it was really inspiring. And if you guys ever get a chance to read that book, The Light We Carry, it really is a really good book. And then obviously, just in general, there's a lot of women that have made significant strides in the science and the healthcare field. I do not know their names. That sounds so terrible. I'm sorry. I'm sure I could Google it, but I always think of the movie Hidden Figures, and it was three women who really like they did the mathematics behind, was it the Apollo? I think it was the Apollo, but it was space. It was like for a spaceship. Uh spacecraft. I don't know why that sounded so funny saying spaceship. Um but it was the mathematics to get them safely to space. And it was three women who did, three black women, let's say that, who did the mathematics behind it. And so Hidden Figures is based on a true story of that. And it's just, I think a big thing too with bringing up Women's History Month and trying to have this intentional month is to notice like there are so many, whether it's designs, whether it's I don't know what they're called, like inventions, right? Inventions, designs, anything like that. So many that men get credit for, but women done, or women put in the legwork or anything like that. And so I really think that was a huge reason why bringing up and starting Women's History Month as well, because so many women have made strides, you know, and being in the healthcare my field myself, it's always incredible when I'm seeing like just a huge representation of women of all different backgrounds too, in the healthcare field, because the biggest thing when we see women in fields, no matter what kind of field it is, but especially male dominated fields, it is kind of just how we started this podcast talking about the theme, right? The theme of Women's History Month. But it is now inspiring those younger generations because it's given representation. It's showing, hey, this woman who looks just like me is doing this incredible thing, making these incredible strides and killing it. And that's really amazing. And I think too that goes into the impact of just role models and what it can do. And it makes such a difference when you're able to see like yourself being represented, or another woman or someone who reminds you of you, whether you're a kid, whether you're older in your 20s, your 30s, 40s, so it doesn't even matter. Like you're seeing someone who, looks like you, who's a woman, who's doing all this stuff and who's making these strides. And it doesn't have to be a famous person either. It does not have to be a famous person. It can be just someone in your life or someone you came across in or anything like that. And I think a big change that, or shift that we've seen recently that actually just gets me so excited is just women's sports. Women's sports are on the come up, and they always have been, but they're getting a lot of recognition now. And we really have to really whether you don't like them, I think unfortunately the internet has just sit in here and they're just trying to divide people. But the young athletes that are coming up, the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. I know I'm speaking basketball, but I'm like, I know there are
Surprising.
soccer players, gymnasts, Simone Biles, like gymnasts, and you have these athletes coming up and doing these like phenomenal things, right? And not just achievements on the court, on the field, on the beam, but they are also just doing so much off like their sport for the community. And even if let's say even if they're like not doing a ton of community stuff, which they're also just being that role model and showing that representation and saying like, hey, I'm doing this, I look like you, I'm making it happen. And I just think that's like really inspiring, and it really does. And so many of these athletes have said that too, right? And not even just athletes, but just women in different fields. They always say like, I'm doing this for, I'm doing this for little girls that are told that they're not, they're not good enough, or little girls that are told that they can't do this because this is what boys do or anything like that. And one last thing, I follow this woman on Instagram. Her name is Kelly Girardi, and she's an astronaut. And she has already gone into space, and she's like very vibrant in her fashion. I love it. But she talks so much about
I
like,
follow her too. I was like, that name sounds really familiar, and I know who you're talking about. I follow her
yeah,
too. I love her.
yeah, because she talks so much about being a woman in space,
And she's a
right? Like,
mom
and
to a
she's a
very young
mom, and
girl, and she's like, there's videos of her being like, I'm showing my daughter that women can do this too.
exactly. And it's just really that, it's just really amazing. And I mean, it's just great seeing those other sides of social media where you see it with different doctors, athletes, stay at home moms, astronauts, like all these people that really are phenomenal women, that are getting it done. Yeah, my sister's bowing because yeah, she is a phenomenal woman getting it done.
You said
But
stay at home mom. I was like, that's me.
right, that's tough. Y'all heard her kids screaming over there. But either way, I think we can learn a lot from just the women that are in our lives, and I think we can learn a lot from women that are continuously paving the way to make more room and more space, and to allow girls and women to be heard right? And to be seen. And I think it's phenomenal. And I hope that we continue to move forward despite everything happening around us, continue to move forward and not back.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna back it up for a second.
Oh God,
Uh,
I just said move forward, move forward.
I know, but I wanted you to get your list out, and I knew you were very excited about this one, so I was kind of I'm letting this is Caitlin's baby. Um,
I
but
don't think I
talk.
did it too much justice. It's hard when you're like on a time limit.
I know.
But
Um, we'll have to do like a separate episode for those interested. That's just Caitlin going on and on and on.
who wouldn't love that?
um, what did I say last night? Podcast deactivated.
Oh God, don't do that to us, y'all.
So I want to talk about a woman in history that I don't know if you know this, but we found out before Dee Dee had passed away that that Betsy Ross was one of our ancestors. Do you remember hearing about this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I've done my ancestry.com and I'm starting to get pretty close to where I think the paths crossed, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty exciting because I've been trying to look into that more and more to find like more proof. Because all we had was like a typewriter letter from somebody that we were related to Betsy Ross. And I was like, it would be really cool to have the proof there.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first woman to make the American flag. Like that would be awesome. And then there's something that like some guy actually came up with the design. Okay, but he wasn't there with the sewing needle. But I am starting to find where that path crossed, so I'm really intrigued in that one. So that would be a fun discovery on my part.
Yeah. I
Hold on, Caitlin's yawning.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm yawning. Okay. Sorry about that.
No, she's not.
But yeah, I think actually doing the ancestry stuff is cool too because just for anybody, I mean, if you guys want to, you never know who you could end up being related to or
And you know I
just kind
love
of
this stuff.
your background in general too. You guys might not want to find out you're related to anybody, and that's totally fine. I get that too. I get that too. But anyways, guys, but I think women, of course, I think, right? I think Women's History Month is fantastic. But just as I mentioned last month with Black History Month, and now I'm going to mention the same thing with Women's History Month, it should not just be a month, right? We should consistently be encouraging, supporting all women in our lives and also just lifting each other up and providing that stage, for lack of better terms, to be our true authentic selves and to push those boundaries and to be bold and to go out and do things that we're scared to do because it's not typically done with women and it's usually just been men doing it, or I've been told, stay in my glass house and that where you belong, and that's not where you belong. You belong where you feel you belong, and you belong where your heart is taking you, right? So do that. Trust
I feel
yourself.
I feel like I have to raise my hand to jump in here. I don't want to interrupt Caitlin because she's loving it. So the other night I went to a networking event for my new job. And I was invited, and I met some incredible local business owners, like especially women. And
Yeah.
there was this one lady who's a realtor around my area, and sorry guys, this house is a zoo. Sean's yelling at them. But she kind of took me under her wing for the event, and she introduced me to other people, other women that own local businesses, and she was just very, like, we had just met and she seemed very proud of me for, like, I had told her, I'm like, this is my first time at one of these, this isn't really my comfort zone, and she just like helped me meet so many people, and she was just so sweet, and she invited me to come to, so this is like the commerce like in the area, and she invited me, they have a women's meeting like once a month that's just women business owners,
Girl, you didn't tell me that.
and she was like, you should really come, and I'm just like, I don't own this
You
gym, and she
should
was like,
really
so bring
come.
your boss, because the owner of the gym I'm working at, she's a woman, and she's like,
Yeah.
so you guys can both go. And yeah, she was like, you need to come, like it's just a
Yeah.
good way to meet other women in the area, especially business owners. I was like,
And not even that, that's like a huge thing of like women supporting women, right?
mm-hmm,
I feel like unfortunately sometimes because society up to this point, society has kind of been like where male dominated, and it's almost like we've always been like fighting to try to get to the top, right? And work our way up to the top and just be the best versions of ourselves, that sometimes I think we as women can kind of lose sight of other women as well that are doing the same thing. And I think there's so much more achievements when we are doing it together, when we're doing it in unity, when we're supporting each other. And I think that's really incredible, because we need women who support women. We need women who are familiar with the ins and outs of what it takes to do these things. And I think that's great. And I think that's a great way to just kind of ending with that and saying like, hey, like, people listening, like, one, celebrate, like celebrate the women in your lives, recognize, support them, and acknowledge what they're doing, and see if you can lend a helping hand or see if there's anything that you can do to better support them. And as we mentioned, like, we don't want this to just be like a one-off. And I feel like a lot of people who listen to this podcast anyways probably aren't, you're listening to two women talking anyways. So but in your community, find just different, whether it's like women owned businesses, women events. You just said like a networking event, like just different things in your communities that can, one, open up your own thought process, your own mind, and then also ones that you can like go to and be like, wow, like that was great. And then word of mouth, you're telling other people, wow, dude, you missed this, like this was great. And just trying to create that positive change and say like, hey, there's so many incredible folks like in our world, in our society, that are doing incredible things. And it's really great to just continue to uplift, support, encourage, and really encourage. Like, if you have people in your life, especially, I'm going to say especially women, because our whole topic has been women,
yeah,
right? Like, but if you have
but
women in
please
your
feel free to support anybody
right, no,
in your
exactly.
life. Like,
But if you have women in your life that just feel like they have like this fire, they have this passion, but they just don't know how to start it, or they're just nervous to start it, or they just feel like they're not going to get anywhere, like, encourage the hell out of them. Encourage them and be there for that support and see how you can assist. And I mean, you don't know until you try, and you don't even know how much of an impact that can make if they don't do it, right? So,
before we wrap things up, I have a shout out for one of our own. Caitlin finished her first 5K yesterday, and we are so proud of you. And she hit her goal of not, like, your goal was to just run the
yeah, my
whole
goal
thing,
was to
right?
run and finish it.
Um, and Sorry, Aaron's trying to find me. I'm behind the door. Um,
That's what we have to do as parents. Hide behind the door. Hide from your children.
um, but no, like you hit your goal and that's awesome. The other thing that I want to mention before we wrap it up, because it is March, and as besides St. Patrick's Month, which is my daughter calls it Happy Shamrock Month, um, it is also Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month. Our mom had MS. We are going. It's a virtual 5K, but Caitlin's going to probably run it. My ass is not running. I'm going to walk with my kids, and Sean's going to walk with me, and we're going to do a 5K in memory of mom. So just keep a lookout for, like, we'll post about it. Um, but we also want to support anybody who has MS, who lost someone with MS, who's a caretaker for someone with MS. Like, we are here for you, 110%. And even though everybody's journey is different, we understand what you're going through. Um, I think that's it for my notes at the end of this meeting.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, follow us on Instagram.
Two Sisters Unscripted.
Yes, follow us, provide any feedback. If you guys want any specific topics, let us know. And we hope you have a phenomenal Women's History Month.
Yes. Have a great week, and we look forward to next week.
And do something that brings you joy.
Bye.
Bye.